Namaste viewers and welcome to Bend It Like LD. Today's video is a strong and sweaty practice, a sequence to prepare you for arm balances, a sequence for building strength both in your upper body and core strength. And it's a great way to start your day as well because it's a very strong energetic practice. Now arm balances are a good fun way to incorporate into your daily yoga practice because they build obviously a lot of upper body strength and a lot of core strength in the body, but more importantly, from a psychological perspective, arm balances infuse a whole lot of confidence in the body and mind, and they help you get that release of feel-good hormones in the body. So the rush of endorphins, the feeling of adrenaline, and the feeling of accomplishment, essentially, that you have, you're able to lift your own body weight using just your palms is, of course, not very easy. And when you do that, you do feel very good. So it's a great way to give you that heady, happy start to the day. So let's get started, and I'll speak a little more about the key alignment techniques required for arm balances as we progress in the video. So coming on to a downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana first, and just walking up your heels up and down to just loosen up your leg muscles first. We'll quickly get into a plank with the chaturanga going down all the way into a bhujanga, into Adho Mukha. We'll do about 3 or 4 rounds. You can of course do 5 rounds if you wish. This is just to instantly kick up and fire up the core. So from Adho Mukha Svanasana, moving on to a plank first. Now usually for arm balances, I like to practice a little bit of a high plank, and I'll tell you why a little later, because it keeps your belly lifted. It keeps your core engaged. So pull the belly muscles in, hips in line with your shoulders, push into your palms and lift your body weight up. And as you exhale, go down in one breath all the way down. And as you inhale, moving to an upward facing dog, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, hips and knees off the mat. But of course, you can always keep your knees on the mat if you find this a little challenging. And as you exhale, moving back to Adho Mukha Svanasana. We'll practice about 3 rounds of this. If you have the time, go ahead and do 5 sets if possible. So every time you come to a plank, make sure you're pressing your palms, spreading your fingers wide, and take one exhale, go down all the way. Inhale, lift up into Urdhva Mukha. Try and stay in Urdhva Mukha for about 2 or 3 breaths if you can, because that is what is going to prepare you for arm balances. That upper body strength, the opening of the shoulder blade is what we want. And as you exhale, moving back to Adho Mukha Svanasana. So once you're done with about 3 or 5 rounds of this prep, slowly lift your right leg all the way up. Oh, I think we're going for one more round. Exhale all the way down. And maybe try to hold plank for 3, 5, 10 breaths, how much ever you can. You can hit the pause button, maybe practice this couple of times till you feel warm, but I can guarantee you this is a strong and sweaty practice anyways. You can see me sweating within like 5 or 10 minutes of the video. Inhale, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale, back to Adho Mukha Svanasana. And from there, lift your right leg all the way up, point the right toes back. Now open up the hip, bend the right knee, point the right knee to the sky, and do some knee rotations from there, hip and knee rotations. Open up the hip first. You can add a couple of hip and knee rotations here as well. I think I wanted to do that. I don't know why I didn't end up doing that. So anyway, you can include that in your practice. And as you exhale, tuck your knee to your chest, pull your back muscles up firmly. Stay there for about 3 or 5 breaths. Inhale all the way back. Maybe we do a couple of rounds for that. Exhale, knee to your chest. Pull your back muscles up, round your back, shift your weight towards your palms. You'll already feel that core coming into play here. And one more round, bring your knee to your chest. Feel free to do 5 rounds if you can, if you have the time. Squeezing that knee to your chest as much as you can. Exhale, release, and moving on to the other side. Inhale, left leg lifted up, point the toes back, keeping the knee straight. Exhale, knee to your chest, pull the back muscles up. Inhale all the way back, exhale, knee to your chest. Each time you move forward, try to shift your weight forward. Now arm balance is there's just two principles in arm balances: shift and lift. So you basically want to shift your body towards your weight, towards your palms, and then you lift yourself up. So if you kind of have this in the back of your mind throughout the practice, you'll kind of figure out what is required to bring you that last bit to take you to that particular arm balance. And we'll talk about that a little later as well. And from there, slowly step your right foot in between your palms. You can either jump between your palms or you can step forward with your right and left foot. That is completely your choice. And from there, fingertips on the mat, moving to a short Utkatasana chair pose. Now if you see again here, I'm not going very deep. I'm going to just push my hip back and squat down. But what I'm going to focus here is to really tuck my tailbone, pull the belly in, and then lift my arms up so that my back is absolutely straight. There are two options here. If you find this is too much of a strain on your lower back, you can always stretch your arms out in front of you as well. There I'm showing you that variation. But if possible, if you can, then go ahead and lift your arms up. Make sure you're tucking your tailbone throughout the process, pulling the belly muscles in, staying here for about 3 to 5 breaths and release. And from there, we'll do a couple of standing asanas to create some strength in our legs, into our core. And turning your right foot out, keeping your feet about 4 feet apart, 3.5 to 4 feet apart. Preparing first for Trikonasana or the triangle pose. Make sure the right heel and left arch are in one line. As you inhale, spread your arms out, reach to the right side first laterally. And as you exhale, drop your right palm down, left arm lifted up. Make sure you're rolling both the hips outwards, rotating the hip out. And pull the belly in, gazing at your left fingertips. And we'll do a little short core practice by stretching the right arm by the side of your right ear and extend that left arm over the left ear. Trying to turn the left hip out, staying here steadily for 3 to 5 breaths. And from there, moving to Warrior 2, Virabhadrasana. You can increase the distance between your feet a little more and bend the right knee over your right ankle. Keeping the core steady, tucking the tailbone throughout, opening out the chest. Stay here for about 5 breaths. And slowly from there, stretch your right arm in front of you, turn the palm out. And take your left arm over your left ear. Again, this is for engaging your core, to learn core engagement, to fire up the core, to strengthen your core. Stay here, but make sure the right knee is still in position over the right ankle. Press the outer edges of your left foot. And back to Warrior 2. Now stretch your arms out in front of you. Now pushing into both your feet firmly. Slowly do a half forward fold so that your upper body is parallel to the floor. Just to open up the hips a little more. And slowly come back. Straighten the standing leg, straighten the right leg, hands to your hips. And moving on to the left side for Trikonasana first. Trikonasana is one pose that is really excellent for the entire body. It strengthens your leg, it strengthens your back. And this version of Trikonasana, where we are extending our arms to the side, is also great for strengthening your core. Gazing up towards your right fingertips, breathing in and breathing out throughout the practice. Longer, slower inhalation and exhalations. Slowly take your left arm all the way up, parallel to the floor, and stretch your right arm over your right ear. Keeping the integrity of the pose intact, turning the right hip out, pushing into the outer edges of the right foot firmly, keeping both the legs straight. Slowly come back. If you want, you can go a little more deeper now, moving to Warrior 2, Virabhadrasana 2. Tuck the tailbone, pull the belly in, open the chest out. Exhale, bend the left knee over the left ankle. Gazing towards your left fingertips, staying here for 5 breaths. Steady in Virabhadrasana. And from there, stretch your left arm to the front and right arm stretched over the right ear. Make sure the left knee is turning out and not caving in. That's very important to strengthen your inner thigh muscles. Back to warrior 2. Stretch your arms out to the front and fold forward halfway. But make sure you're opening up the hips, rotating the hips outward, pushing into both your feet firmly. Don't forget to breathe. And back to warrior 2. And slowly heel toe your feet in by bringing your heels and toes closer to each other, moving to your feet about, say, hip distance apart. We'll do some squats now. Squats are, of course, a full body exercise. It's good for strengthening your quadriceps. It's good for creating a lot of fluidity and mobility in the body. So, feet hip distance apart, turn the toes out to a 45 degree. As you exhale, go down all the way with a straight back. Drive through your heels and slowly come up with a straight back as much as you can. I think I'm doing about 5 or 6 here, but I think you should do about 10 because that will really get your hips nice and loosened up and prepare your body really well for any arm balance that you want to try. Once you're done with about 5 or 10 squats, slowly step to the front of your mat. We'll just complete a vinyasa here by lifting your arms all the way up, stretch back into Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, fold forward into Uttanasana. Inhale, Ardha Uttana, and walk back or jump back to Chaturanga. I think we are going to Vasishtasana straight away into a side plank from here. So separating your feet about hip distance apart, drop the heels to the left side and stretch your right arm up. Now if you notice, I'm not stacking my heels here because I'm working on my obliques. So I'm trying to rotate the left hip forward and the right hip back so that I can engage my obliques here. And trying to push the heel portion of the foot into the mat firmly. And on the other side, keeping my feet hip distance apart, dropping my heels to the right side and left arm lifted up. Now I'm lifting my hip up, rotating my right hip forward and pushing the outer edges of my feet into the mat as much as I can. Staying here for nice 5 steady breaths. My shoulder and my wrist is in one line. We'll also do an elbow plank here because of course you do need a little bit of shoulder and upper body strength as well. So moving on to a dolphin plank or an elbow plank. Turn the left elbow in so that the left forearm is parallel to the mat and right arm lifted up. You can stack your feet here if you wish. Try to engage the core, lift the hips up as much as you can. Make sure both your legs are straight and they are tight. On the other side, coming on to your right forearm completely, make a fist with your right palm. Push into the mat firmly, lift yourself up. Keeping the glutes engaged, keeping your core engaged. You should feel all that work on your arms. You can see I'm already really sweaty already. And taking a small break here to just get my breathing back. That was tough. That was not easy at all. Relaxing here for a few breaths. Slowing down my breath consciously. Long inhalation and longer, deeper exhalation. And from there, moving on to Adho Mukha Svanasana once again. Step the right and left foot in between your palms and slowly come up. Moving on to a slight balancing pose, Virabhadrasana 3. Press into your left foot, hands to your hips forward and lift your right leg all the way up. There are 2 options. You can swing your arms behind you or you can stretch your arms by the sides of your ears. Upper body parallel to the floor. Try to keep both knees straight as much as you can. Pull the right hip down towards the mat. This asana is of course great for building strength in the standing leg, building strength in your glutes. And from there, as you exhale, bring the right knee to your chest as high as you can, pointing the toes down, lifting the chest up. Keep the core engaged throughout the practice, staying here for about 3 to 5 breaths, and repeat on the other side. You can also do about 2 or 3 sets of this as well to really prepare and strengthen the lower back, to your glutes, your legs. Point the left toes back, pull the left hip down, standing leg straight. And oops, I lost my balance there. It happens. So get back to your practice. If this happens to you, it's no problem. You just hit the pause button, get back to your practice till you feel a steady state, and slowly bring the left knee to your chest. Bring the knee close to your chest, point the toes down, hands to your hips. Staying here for a steady 5 breaths. Driving through the right foot firmly into the mat, right knee straight, and release. And since it's also important to strengthen the back, because with an arm balance, since you're balancing your entire body, it's important that your entire body is ready. All parts of your body are kind of mobile, agile, warm, strong, and you can get into the pose quickly then. And moving on to Ashtasana, which is again a very strong back bend. So I'm showing you a couple of options with blocks first. If you think you cannot really push your hip forward, if your hips are tight, you can keep a block on either side of your feet and press your palms into the block and stretch back. That is one way of doing this pose without really hurting your lower back. And if you think you have the spinal fluidity, the spinal flexibility in the body, you can simply press your palms onto your heels, push the hip back. But what is most important is to keep your hip in line with your knees. If your hips are moving really back, then it's a good idea to use props always. And I'm doing a slightly more advanced version by untucking my toes, which means I have to reach further down, which is a lot more expansion in the lower back, and push the hip forward and stretch back, trying to bring the chest towards the sky as much as possible. I find this tough too. I find there's a lot of work in my lower and middle back in this pose. And from there, we'll also prepare our shoulders a little bit, moving to Uttana Shishosana or Anahata asana as we call it, separating your knees hip distance apart, keeping your hips above your knees. Slowly walk forward with your palms and try to bring the chest down as much as you can. Now I'm showing you an option where I'm bringing my palms into a Namaskara Mudra and trying to take my palms behind my head. I do this because it really opens the shoulder blades. It brings a lot more freedom in your shoulders, because your shoulders play a very crucial role in arm balances as well. So this helps to open the shoulders. If you think that's very, very strenuous on your shoulders, you can always keep a block under your elbows and take your palms behind your head. So any which ways, you choose an option that works best for you. And also it creates a lot of length in your spine, and this particular pose is very useful if you want to do any arm balance that requires a twisting action as well. And slowly rest in child's pose for a couple of breaths. We're almost done preparing for arm balances. I think just 1 or 2 forward bends and then I'm going to show you 2 arm balances today and the different ways to approach it. These are entry level arm balances that I'll be showing you. Moving to Adho Mukha Svanasana or downward facing dog. And slowly sit on the mat and stretch your legs out in front of you. We'll just do a short forward fold to just relax the nervous system a little. So I'm choosing Paschimottanasana here. So this is also a great way to open the hamstrings. So stretch your legs out in front of you. Lift your sit bones, engage, pull the belly in and fold forward. I'm doing a very simple forward fold by taking my palms behind my toes, turning the elbows out to the sides, keeping my chin extended, making sure my knees are straight so that I open the hamstrings, the back of my knees as well. When I started out in my yoga practice, I used to hate arm balances. But then later on it became my favorite, and no practice is complete for me without practicing at least trying out at least 2 or 3 arm balances every time I do yoga. It's become my favorite. And we'll also do a Purvottanasana by bending the knees first, taking your palms behind, push into your feet, lift your hips up, make sure your quads are engaged, roll the thighs and knees in. And we'll go for the slightly advanced version by stretching the legs out, taking the palms behind your hips, roll the shoulders back, lift the chest up, and try to drop the toes all the way to the mat as much as you can, and keep engaging and lifting the chest and hip throughout. And exhale, release. This is also great for opening the shoulders, opening the chest. And I think, oh, the most important thing I forgot, the last one. This is a great prep that I do by placing my palms on a block, coming to a short downward dog. I lift my heels all the way up and I start to walk towards the blocks. So this is just a prep. I'm rocking front and back in this. But this is a great way to build strength in your upper back and shoulders, and it has really helped me a lot in my personal practice as well. So take a block, place the block slightly wider than your shoulders, press your palms onto the block, come to a short downward dog, lift your heels all the way up and start to walk onto your tippy toes, trying to lift the hip up and bring the hips in line with your shoulders, or at least close to your shoulders as much as you can. And shifting your weight beyond your wrist. So your shoulders move past your wrist. And you can really feel that burn in your biceps, in your triceps, in your upper back. Keep your gaze between your palms, staying here for 3 to 5 breaths. Do about 3 to 5 sets of these. This really helps to strengthen your upper back, your shoulders, and also your wrists. Because finally, it's your your wrist that's going to take all your weight. Slowly release. So I can see that I'm totally tired. I'm totally so pooped after that. And just we'll do a little bit of wrist exercises to get some relief for the wrist. So you can come to Marjari Asana. Turn the palms outwards so that the wrists are facing out and you can rock side to side. You can change your palm position into different directions. You can then place your palms facing towards you and rock front and back. And you can turn your palms in, straighten the elbows. This will be very painful, but it's good to do this because then there's a lot of pressure that gets released from the wrist, and you can approach your arm balances much better that way. You can also just rotate your shoulders front and back to release any tension from your shoulders, upper back, and to the base of your spine, and finish with a couple of cat and cow stretches as well. And ta-da! I think we are ready now. We are ready to rock. We're ready to start with 2 arm balances. If you want, you can also do a little bit of twist. I'm going to do Parshva Bakasana and Bhuja Pidasana today. Now, Parshva Bakasana is quite accessible if you have a decent amount of strength in your core and your shoulders. But I'm going to show you 2 variations using props. So there are 2 things. One is your hips could be tight, which could be probably stopping you from accessing the pose, or the other is that your core strength could be a bit low. So first I'm going to show you for core strength. So if you think that your shoulders and your core is still not ready, but you have the mobility in the hip, then take your palms to the side, come to a squat position, squeeze your legs together, lift your hip up and shift and lift. We spoke about this before. So you're going to shift your weight towards your palms, come into a chaturanga position, press your thighs onto both your elbows and just take your feet, walk forward and press your feet onto the block. You can continue to stay here. This itself is a great pose for building strength, and then you can experiment by taking 1 foot off the mat, maybe 2 feet off the mat as well. And then the second option is if your hips are tight and if you feel that you're not able to really twist, which is why we did a couple of postures to access twist better, you keep the blocks shoulder distance apart or slightly wider than the shoulders, press your palms on the block, come to a squat, press your knees and your thighs onto your elbows and shift your weight forward. And walk your feet slightly forward and slowly again experiment by lifting 1 foot off the mat, maybe both feet off the mat. So as I said, the principle is very simple. Shift your body weight towards your palms and then lift your body weight. So shift and lift is something that I always teach in all my classes for arm balances. And I'm showing you the actual posture without the use of blocks by squeezing my core, pressing my palms down, walking my feet slightly forward, and lifting up. I'm using a block here again, I guess. Okay, that's cool. Keep shifting. Think of extending your body forward laterally rather than dropping the chest down. So you're continuously shifting your weight to the side. And as I said, if you have tight hips or if your obliques are still not ready, then you press your palms onto blocks. You're basically creating height, which means your hips don't have to go all the way down. While staying up, you can still access the pose. Squeeze your legs together, point your toes out, squeeze your knees together. Parshva Bakasana, side crane or side crow pose. And next we look at Bhuja Pidasana, a shoulder pressing pose. Bhuja means shoulder. Bhuja Pidasana. So keep your blocks. Two options here again. One is if you don't have the strength, then you can just squeeze your shoulders under your thighs. You really want to bring that shoulder under the thighs as much as you can. Press your palms onto the block and slowly try to take the feet off the mat. This is if your hips are tight, you can use a block to elevate the height, as I mentioned before. If you can cross your ankles, cross your feet, keep lifting through the chest. So press the palms, lift yourself up. Now the other is when you feel you don't have the strength in your shoulders, then you can keep the blocks in front of you. You can squeeze your shoulders under your thigh again, keep your feet hip distance apart, and from there slowly take your palms by the side and lift one leg, lift the other leg and place them on the blocks. Here you can experiment. You can release one foot off the the other foot off the block, play around with it. Just do this to build strength, and maybe one day both feet can come off the blocks. Engage. So squeeze your abdominal muscles, press your palms and lift yourself up. So these are the two options for Bhuja Pidasana, and make sure you always finish with a slight forward fold, swinging your body to the right and left to release any tension in the upper back and middle back. And slowly sit on the mat. Well done. Finish with a couple of stretches for your palms. Stretch your arms out to the front. Take your palms behind, roll the shoulders back, lift the chest up. I hope you enjoyed the practice. Do try this out and let me know if you could access any arm balance after doing this practice. And you can simply do this practice to just build strength, because it's a great core workout as well. Thank you very much. Wishing you all a wonderful day. Namaste. And thank you for watching once again.